281A.420 that my company, Reliance Connects, does have a few bills that will be paid under the consent agenda. However, I do not believe that a reasonable person in my situation would be materially affected by that relationship, so I will not be abstaining. I will be, however, abstaining from agenda item number 11, and Mr. Withelder will take over as Mayor Pro Tem for that. Also on the consent agenda item, C&O Holding has requested that we continue item number 4 until July 24th. So with those changes in mind, I'll see if council wants to make any other changes, or we'll seek a motion. Councilman Withelder.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm prepared to make a motion. I would like to make a motion that council approve items 1, 2, 3, and 5 on the consent agenda, subject to all staff approval and recommendations, and with item number 4 being pulled. Thank you.
Could we get a date certain on that, please?
Yes, and I'm sorry, that item number 4 will be in the second meeting in the month of July. I believe it's the 24th.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
second.
You okay with that? Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6 is public comment. For those of you having public comment, please step forward, state your name, where you're from, and we do have a 3-minute time limit.
Jack Walsh, the real Jack Walsh. I lived here since October 1998. City I call Lago, named after the city seen in the film High Plains District, Clint Eastwood. When I last saw council here in the training room, I said, here's an email and motion for summary judgment that I wrote, and no one else wrote. And since you have motions, I have motions. The date on it was May 3rd, 2006. That's also the date I took a deposition at the Executive Suites involving my boss here in Costa And I was banned from the library. And I called the police and said, hey, you know, get go down here. And, you know, citing the law, they don't have to give me a ticket for being a nuisance driver. I just said, this is a matter that should be resolved so somebody knows, you know, how long you trespass, what status means, whatever. I just said, well, you know, make sure whoever this person is woke up and thought, the usual, they're probably going to me. Now, I asked Sherry, she made a motion for summary judgment with email. She said she did. Is that correct, Sherry? I gave you a motion for summary judgment, an email. I asked all of you to read it. That way all of you understand me. You said you read it. Okay. Well, did any of you read it? Yes, no. If you did, raise your hand. No, okay. Sorry. Now, George, I told you that the movie bureau would bring in $100 million to the city. Mesquite, if there's a trilogy, 3 of them. And I said, well, these are the scenes like right here. And I said, a lot of people. Well, he didn't tell me say anything about it. What you should do is read the motion for summary judgment, right? And tell me, is there any way you could propose this motion? Is there any way you could wrote this movie script? You ain't no high letter shredder. Well, Larry Austin's name is on my right shoe letter that I got from the EOC Los Angeles. And he was a research director at Rica when I got fired. Now, I lived on the scenic, and I don't remember seeing any clip up at 60 feet in him. I told Glenn Horvath, look, visually proud of this lawsuit. They're going to destroy the whole course system as usual. Larry Austin, in my opinion, you know, he could have been killed if Virginia Lucier was fired to Rico San Luciano. You know, I'm not telling you, he was found dead. So, let's see here. Oh, yeah. I do the case somewhere in September, August, with Judge Dodd. I told him, I bet the whole case, set it up. And May Thursday, I got a ticket, banned from libraries, most Thursday and all that. And thanks for Janet for calling me out and saying, hey, Jack, there's a warrant out for you, arrest 9/18/2008. I said, well, how could that be? Whoever told him that, if somebody did, might be the person, whoever Judas C plus this, my ticket. Well, this person's real, I don't know. I got, there's a concern about the safety of people's lives. My next friend is Heidi, was found dead in front of a base center. Dennis Tanner, building our jail, dead.
Jack, can you wrap it up, or do we?
Okay, no, it's all right. I'm one guy I see, who cares about these people, the people that killed. This is one guy out there that cares, me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Girl, oh, good, thank you. Still
Any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll close agenda item 6 and move to agenda item 7, which is presentation and discussion and consideration of a proposed renewal insurance policy from the Nevada Public Agency Pool and approval for payment from the fiscal year 2012-2013 funds. Come on forward.
Thank you, Mike Waite, and Autoliv Insurance, and Wayne Carlson.
For the record, Wayne Carlson, you should have received a summary of the program in your packet. I just want to comment initially that the pool is celebrating its 25th year. The city of Mesquite came into the pool shortly after the city was formed as a city, so you've been with us almost the whole time. In terms of the program membership, if you look down about the third page, there's a list of all the members in the pool throughout the state. There's cities, counties, towns, special districts, school districts, fire districts, any quasi-governmental agencies. So we're quite a variety of over 106 members. On the next page are the limits. We retain the same limit and deductible. You have a $2,000 deductible on each of your losses presently. Our property limits for fire remain at $300 million per event. You have earthquake coverage at $100 million aggregate and a flood coverage at $100 million aggregate, except for Zone A, which is a $10 million aggregate. Those are shared limits amongst your other pool members, but with the dispersity, it's not likely that one event will take them all out. There's other sub-limits I won't spend time on unless there's questions on those. Your liability limits is combined a $10 million limit. That includes your auto, general liability, which is your slip and fall, that sort of thing, operational liability, your board errors and emissions, and employment practices liability. In terms of what's included in the package beyond just the coverage, we have an extensive array of risk management support and human resource support that we provide to all of our members. We also have a risk management grant program. We encourage you to take advantage of that. We've had a number of members apply for grants for various projects that they didn't have the funds within their city budget, but they had a real need and it would reduce the risk. So those have ranged from a protective fence height, kind of like the golf fence put on for a small district that had solar panels broken by kids in the neighboring daycare center and throwing things over. So we've had a lot of little small losses with that, to a school district that needed video cameras in its buses because of issues that were rising there, to another school district that had communications equipment that was so old the officer safety was at risk because there were areas where he could not communicate with the base nor with the city police department when he needed to. We introduced a new grant program this year. It's called the Striker Grant Program. In that grant program, it's a 50-50 match. It's for ambulance equipment. Striker is a an ambulance equipment manufacturer. They make power cots, so it reduces the lifting exposure for your ambulance attendants and your firefighters who do ambulance and that sort of thing. They need those services, so you can get the power cot, or if you have existing cots and need a power support under those, and we can do that. We also have what's called stair chairs. So when you have a second story, these are chairs that one person can take a 400 person down in this stair chair, down a flight of stairs. So those are available to you. It's a 50-50 match. They can go to our website and get the application, complete that, and get it in, and be eligible for that. And Wiswell in my office coordinates that grant program. So if there's any questions with that, we can get in touch with her and we'll get you the details. The next is the program cost. The total program cost is $538,058.43. That is actually down about 3% from last year. And it's due, several factors happened when we went to the markets to look for the property reinsurance this year. We knew the market was going to be difficult because of all the catastrophes that have occurred in the last hurricane season and the earthquakes and tsunamis in Japan affected the worldwide market. So there were rumors of costs going up 10 to 25% of the property. We've been in the Lloyd's of London market for a number of years now, and because of that, we were able to negotiate better terms than that. We did have a 7.5% increase, but that included an average increase of 3% in property value. Offsetting that was a reduction in our liability premium rates. And in your case, you also had a reduction in some of the exposures that we rate the liability on. So your property values went up about 3%, but your payroll and your fleet and other employees and those things went down. So the overall offset came out neutral for the pool members as a whole, and for you at 3% reduction. Then the next chart shows the total pool experience. You'll notice a big spike in the severity in 2008, fiscal year 7107 to 7108. We have a series of large unrelated events. First was the in January of 08, the Fernley, City of Fernley and Lyon County were sued because of a breach of the canal that ran managed by an irrigation district. That breach occurred and flooded some developments. So the city was named, the county was named, in addition to a whole bunch of developers and real estate agents. There were a lot of people. There was 4 class actions, over 1,100 people involved. So we defended that case for a number of years. We finally resolved it last year. So that's in that year. In addition, about a month after that canal breach, we had the Wells earthquake. The city of Wells had over $5 million worth of damage because of the earthquake. So those were the 2 big events all in one year. So you can see in most years we don't have those big spikes, but that's why you buy high limits. Those big spikes can occur. And then in your packets were individual exposure histories and claims histories for you folks, so you can see how your experience has been relative. Your claims experience overall has been positive. So that's a good sign. So with that, I'll stop and respond to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Wade, Mr. Carlson, for being here tonight. Appreciate your information. Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll seek a motion. Councilman Littman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to accept the renewal proposal from Nevada Public Agency Insurance Pool and approval for payment from fiscal year 2012-2013 funds.
Okay. We have a motion and a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Call for the vote. Motion carries. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8 is mayor's comments. I have none for tonight. We'll move then to item number 9, which is city council comments and staff reports. Councilman Withelder.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple of things as per normal. We are having a pancake breakfast for the benefit of the newly formed Little League organization, which will be held July 4th at the Senior Center. The Elks, local Elks Lodge, will be providing sausages and pancakes and assorted drinks. A benefit for the Little League. We had a meeting a week ago Monday, and we formed a board of directors, and I must say that we've got a very solid group. It looks like we're progressing rapidly in that area. And we will also be serving ice cream at the 4th of July festivities at the Eureka Hotel that evening, that same evening. On another note, Chamber of Commerce golf tournament to benefit the Chamber, obviously, on August 4th at Falcon Ridge Golf Course. And that's pretty much all I have at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further reports from council? Seeing none, anything from staff? Mr. Barton.
Mr. Mayor, I regret to inform you that Mike Callahan, our Internal Services Director, tendered his resignation yesterday. Mike has had a job offer in another state nearby, beginning with the letter C. Sorry that he's going to the dark side. Mike has served us capably for 5 years, and he will be sorely missed. His last day here will be July 26th. I have an engagement at 11 o'clock on Thursday at the Senior Center. I'll be talking to the seniors during lunch, answering any questions they may have. This is part of my effort to get out of City Hall and meet with residents and find out what's on their mind. I'll be doing another coffee probably in mid-July. I'll be back to you with a date and a place for that. And then finally, we have somebody who has offered up a place for our first neighborhood council meeting. We have a place set up. I'll be coming back to you with a proposal. It would be for the second meeting in September, Tuesday the 25th. I'll be back to you later with more information on that. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close item number 9, move to agenda item 10, which is consideration of introduction of bill number 457, amending Title 1 of the Mesquite Municipal Code entitled Administration by revising Section 1-10-11C, Financial Participation, Recommendation for Financial Assistance, and other matters properly related thereto. Mr. Baker.
Mayor and Council, this is simply the introduction of this item, and it would allow you to set a public hearing for 2 weeks from this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. We will seek a motion then to approve the introduction of bill number 457 and set the public hearing date for July 10th, 2012. We have a motion. Councilman Haven.
Mayor, I move that we approve introduction of bill number 457 and set the public hearing date for July 10th, 2012 at 5 p.m.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Call for the vote. That motion carries. Thank you. I will be turning over the mic to Councilman Withelder for item number 11.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item number 11 on the agenda reads, this is the consideration of an introduction of bill number 458, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Mesquite, Nevada, amending Title II of the Mesquite Municipal Code entitled Business License Regulations by amending sections 2-1-10, fees and insurance coverage requirements for use of the public right-of-way, and other matters probably related thereto. Mr. Hafen, would you like to take this?
I believe this is just for introduction.
Yes.
By way of information, this is strictly to allow for this fee that's being collected. It's 3% right now. It's recommended that 0.5% be taken off each year for the next 6 years to ultimately return that back to the businesses and the citizens. That's the intent of this resolution ordinance.
If council permission, I will read the fiscal impact just for the benefit of those in the audience.
Excuse me, this can only be introduced tonight. That will be read at the second meeting.
You're absolutely correct. I'm sorry. Thank you. I rescind that. Thank you. I will seek a motion for the consideration of introduction of Bill 458. I'm sorry? You made the motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Call for the vote for the introduction. All right. I'll call for the vote.
We need a motion first, please.
Oh, you made the motion. I'm sorry. Oh, well, go right ahead. Make the motion.
Okay, thank you. The motion is that the City Council introduce Bill number 458, read by short title, set public hearing and consideration of adoption for July 10th, 2012.
Second.
All those in favor? No discussion. All those in favor? No, how about raising your hand? All those in favor? Thank you. The motion passes. Mayor, get back here.
Okay, item number 12 is consideration of approval of an addendum to the consulting service agreement with Robson LLC. Mr. Sawyer.
Yes, Council Mayor. There's a general service agreement with Robson that they've had with the city for several years. That's actually with the mayor and city manager and council. And then there's the contract with them for the Fish and Wildlife Service agreement. Robson's talked with council and the mayor. It's up to the mayor and the council what they want to do.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Any questions from the council? Councilman Rapson.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment on this. I think that from a personal perspective, we've met with the gentleman from Robson. I think there's been some disagreement in how we proceeded over a fairly long period of time. And my major concern is Robson sits on several sides of the table quite often. They represent a lot of people, Southern Nevada Water District, the Virgin Valley Water District, and others in the area that have competing interests, or at least conflicting interests. And I have a reservation about that with our consultants. They should be absolutely 100% focused on us, and without any competing interest.
Councilman Hafen.
I agree with Councilman Rapson. Also, Mr. Willis on staff is, I think he's capable, he understands, he's worked with the different agencies. I think we're in good hands with the staff that we have here. Mr. Willis has been involved in this, so I'm confident that staff can serve us well.
Councilman Gus Davison.
Thank you, Mayor.
I guess I have a different opinion of this. Robson has dealt with the city for I think over 7 years, and they've accomplished a lot in a lot of areas. The original takedown for the land that we're building on today was put together by them and executed through all of the federal agencies. And we've enjoyed that for a good number of years. So I think they've done a lot of good things for us. Although John, I think, is a very capable young man. I don't think that he has. I really don't think that he has the connections through all of the agencies that we have to deal with to really take the place of that. So if you're not going to use them, then I would highly recommend you use somebody else, another consulting firm, if you don't want to stay with them. However, I might say there's nobody else with the experience or the number of contacts that they have that I'm aware of. So I would be in favor of, obviously I'd be in favor of retaining them, at least for a period of time until we've got our habitat. That program is set in concrete and we know where we're going.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Gothelder.
Thank you, Mayor. After sitting in with meetings with Mr. Ford and Mr. Stubbs, some of the meetings got quite contentious. I don't personally always agree with their approach as to how they represented us in the past, or probably how they were going to represent us in the future. We had some major, as I said, some major disagreements and some contentious disagreements. And therefore, I really think that we should really consider what we're going to do with these folks in the future. I know they've had a very successful past with us, and I'm not sure if their direction in the future is something that's going to be in our best interest. So I think it's something we should absolutely consider as a unit, with even consideration of approving a future agreement. Personal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further comments from council? Councilman Rapson?
There's no further comments. I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, sir.
I'll move not to approve the consulting service agreement for June 30th, 2013, and not to approve the professional service agreement for the Fish and Wildlife Service for June 2015 or 13, and would ask the city attorney to explore alternative qualified consulting firms and a later determination to whether we need them or not.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we want any discussion on that motion? Go ahead, Councilman Gustavson.
A little lost on the motion, directing the attorney to research for us an appropriate replacement. I would think that would be a city manager's function, and not, if the city manager was to come up with somebody that may be appropriate at that point in time. But I would like to see the motion changed, and we're going to have that motion to the proper individual, and that would be the city manager.
Thank you. Let me go with Councilman Rapson. Are you?
I will revise the motion to include appropriate staff.
Okay, so then the motion then, just to go over that again, will be to not approve the general service agreement and not approve the Fish and Wildlife Service agreement for the dates that we have here, which is through June 30th, 2013, and to direct Mr. Barton to research possible options for other consultants. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'll second the revised motion.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that particular motion? Councilman Gus Davidson, do you have any on that? Okay, that's okay. All right, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 13 is consideration of declaring as surplus property the City of Mesquite's 2003 Ford Mustang GT VIN number 1FAFP42X73F321970 and approve the sale of the vehicle as is with no warranties to Justin Goodsell for the amount of $4,590. Chief Tanner. Mr. Barton, did you have a question?
I was just going to, Chief Tanner is fine to take this. I was just going to introduce it, but I'll let Troy explain it.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, Council, Justin came to us. He was involved in the Beat the Heat program for about 3 or 4 years now with several other agencies, Lincoln County, Utah Patrol, a bunch of agencies in Vegas and California. The program, and I guess it's a backup material, but does church and school programs, grad night, trunk or treat, golf for kids, shop with a cop, dare and great programs. They do annual car shows, at least 2 a year. And then they also do a time on a vehicle. And the program was made to educate, encourage, and promote kids in high school basically to get involved in helping them work on a vehicle. And it's all done by donations. It's a nonprofit group and real successful. I had some phone calls earlier today with some other people in the Beat the Heat program. And I know the city didn't want to take the liability. I had discussions with the city attorney on doing some times. Most agencies run, every agency runs times as far as track times. It impresses kids, gets them involved, educates them a little bit, encourages them to go to the racetrack where it's controlled, a better environment for kids rather than trying to race on the streets. So looking at all that information, we discussed with Justin again this year. It came up, and he wanted to get more donations towards the vehicle. We had several donations in the past. When we first got the vehicle, we purchased it, the city did, from Ford, gave us a discount rate knowing it was for that type of program, also a community policing tool. It was never made for as a patrol vehicle. It was made for a community policing tool to have it at all of our parades, events, and all the programs I listed. And so Justin had some other people come to him and say they wanted to modify some things on the vehicle. I discussed it with Billy Tanner at the shop. It's a manual transmission, of course, so it's a 2-door vehicle. It's a 2003. It easily gets run down, to say the least. It's an older vehicle. The air conditioner doesn't work that well. It costs the city a lot of money to maintain it, to keep it up, especially in the heat here. So we decided to go this route. We didn't want to see it go to auction, because if we stripped the $8,000 of donations off it, all the things they added to it, including the paint job and the fan and a lot of different parts on it, then the vehicle wouldn't be worth quite as much, of course, and then it would cost a lot of money to put the money back into it, you know, the paint job and so on, because we actually discussed buying a different vehicle. But I just wanted you to know it's a great program. There's he's going to continue to. We did a seatbelt safety about 2 weeks ago. You probably saw in the paper. Justin put that on, organized it. We'll still use a vehicle at every one of those events and continue to educate all the high schools in our valley and in Bunkerville. He takes it different places just to show them the vehicle and gets kids intrigued, and then they're willing to talk to police and be more comfortable around us. It's a great program. So I'll take any questions. Justin's up there to answer if you have any. He donates his own time, always has, to all these programs. He travels to Vegas and the car shows, the ones in Mesquite, and he wants to continue that.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Officer Goodsell, for being here. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Barton, you do have a comment you'd like to make?
Mr. Mayor, the reason this is before you in this form is because this is a departure from the way that we normally take care of vehicles. We normally, in this situation, excuse me, would sell this at an auction. This is a departure in policy. It's a policy call, I think, that the council needs to make. The staff recommendation is to move forward with this, but this is an unusual way of doing this. We've not done it before. We've checked with legal. Legal was fine with it. But again, this is a departure from normal policy.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Mr. Gustavson.
You scared me away there. I was going to ask him what car dealer he worked for. That's the best car salesman presentation I've ever heard. So I was going to commend you, and I love seeing that car driving around Mesquite, and I think the kids in Mesquite love it. And from what I understand, wasn't that a lot of that done up at the high school? Was some of that done at the high school?
Yeah, Justin wasn't here when we first got the car. We used it originally for Darren Great, and to be honest, not making fun of any of the officers, but some people couldn't fit in and out of it because it's a two-door vehicle, and it's hard to get in and out with all your equipment on. I'm saying we wear a lot of stuff, and so we use it more at parades, and we do take it to seatbelt safety and some other things, but it was more used as a community policing tool. We parked at different places, but originally a lot of donations came from businesses here in town. Like I said, over $8,500 came from businesses, and every one of those businesses endorsed what Justin's doing. We attach those on your backup. All those businesses want to see it go to him, and they want to continue to donate to it to make it a little bit faster, a little bit better, a little bit nicer looking.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the sale of the car. I just hope that we'll see, still have some presence in the community, because this meant a lot, I think, to the teenagers and stuff in the community. You don't see many police cars that are hopped up looking Mustang. I don't know how hopped up it is, probably not a lot, but it looks good. Thank you.
Councilman Haven.
This is for Justin. Can the chief get in and out of the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Originally, you stepped in, Chief. Originally, I had some concerns because of the departure from policy, but after I talked to legal and Chief Tanner and Officer Goodsell, fact of the matter is that he'd probably get a lot cheaper if he went to auction. But he does a good thing for the community. He donates his own time. There's been a lot of great donations from the community. It's a great program, and so I have no problem with this sale that Officer Goodsell. Thank you. Appreciate all you do.
Councilman Rapson.
Yeah, just for the benefit of those who don't have the full complete backup in the package, that this thing is it appears the price was set based on an online search of a highly respected used car, Edmunds. And other than Kelly Wood look right here, the two, and this is the private party sales price is suggested. So I think this is fair, and I doubt if we get this at auction. No.
Councilman Lippman.
I'm prepared to make a motion on this if there's no further discussion.
Seeing none, go ahead, sir.
Okay, my motion is to declare surplus property the City of Mesquite's 2003 Ford Mustang GT, VIN number 1FAFP42X73F321970, and find that it is desirable and in the best interest of the city to sell the vehicle as is with no warranties to Justin Goodsell for the amount of $4,590.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Doesn't look like there'll be any discussion. Call for the vote. That motion carries. Congratulations, you own a car. Item number 14 is consideration of approval of the Mesquite campus lease agreements for the 2012-13 fiscal year. Possible action. I believe this was pulled from the consent agenda for a couple of questions, but go ahead, Mr. Dangerfield. We'll entertain your comments.
Mayor and Council, the lease rate agreement is brought forward to you tonight. All the agreements have been sent out for all the entities to take a look at. On May 22nd, City Council approved the lease rate at 34 cents a square foot and a common area maintenance fee of $30 a month for tenants. We do have some tenants who do not pay anything. The community theater gets a value of about $21,000 a year, utility costs and rental. We asked each one of the lessees to send us some information, nonprofit status, verified by the IRS and some other things that we've asked them from the very beginning. I just thought it'd be important, and I will entertain your questions, obviously. This program was started back in '05. It started as an opportunity when the city took over the Mesquite campus. It was a business incubator. We did have some commercial enterprise there. Some of them paid 60 cents a square foot. The nonprofits paid 20 cents a square foot. And then there was a need identified to put in some heating and air conditioning, and then later some parking. So the lease rate at 9 cents a square foot has remained constant through the whole time. Utility costs have gone up and slightly down. It's been at 11 cents. Last year it was dropped to 10 cents a square foot. This year it's up to 12 cents a square foot, and that's why the rate went up 2 cents. So I'm hoping that will clarify maybe some of the questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Dangerfield. I'm specifically looking at Exhibit C, the Virgin Valley Family Services. They pay a base rate of 9 cents and utilities at $484, excuse me, easy for me to say, $484.18. I'm not showing any capital investment or parking lot fees or anything else on that. Maybe you can enlighten me a little bit there.
Okay. Mayor, the Virgin Valley Family Services, at least this agreement, is for the historic gym. They use parking on the street. They do their own maintenance. They have a separate meter for their utilities, and they're totally separate from the Mesquite campus.
Thank you. Any further questions from council? Councilman Hafen?
All the tenants are, you had conversation, they're fine with this?
I understand that some aren't. They haven't talked to me about it, though.
I do need to disclose I help with the Boy Scouts, but I don't see that as a conflict, so I will be voting on this.
Mr. Barton, when we were talking about the grant program and revising it, council asked that letters would be sent out to those that were seeking in-kind and rent. Were those letters sent?
I believe so.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, I believe they were.
Ms. Hunt?
I should probably disclose, I did speak, well, I didn't, but one of my staff spoke to the Boy Scouts today about their lease, and I think we've solved some issues with that, just for your information.
Thank you. Councilman Rapson?
Yeah, I'm ready to make a motion.
Any further questions from council? Seeing none, go ahead, sir.
Move to approve the Mesquite campus lease for agreements for 2012 to 13 fiscal year.
Second.
We have a motion and a, second. Call for the vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 15 is consideration of approval of the Hardy Consulting Group, Warren Hardy contract for 2012-2013 with possible action. Mr. Barton, are you going to do the introduction, or do you want these two gentlemen coming up to do that?
I think they're probably better qualified to introduce themselves than I am, so that would be fine if they were to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Warren Hardy from the Hardy Consulting Group. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and answer a few questions. As I've spoken to a couple of the council members, I have had some questions about kind of the old days when I represented the city before and some of our accomplishments, and the council members thought it might be helpful for me to give some historical perspective for some of the new members on some of the projects I worked on before. My history with the city of Mesquite really is I served as a member of the 1991 Nevada Assembly and lost that re-election, but during that time we had put together a fairly aggressive legislative effort for the city, and the then mayor asked me if I would consider going back to Mesquite and representing the city of Mesquite at that time, which I consented to do, and it kind of blossomed from there, and Mesquite became an anchor client of mine, which I enjoyed serving very much. In 2001, when then our state senator, Congressman Porter, announced that he was going to run for the United States Congress, he asked me if I would consider running in his place for the state Senate. I took that opportunity to do so, and Randy Robinson, who was a partner of mine in the business, took over the business, and I think has very ably represented the city of Mesquite. I very much enjoyed my service in the Senate. I very much enjoyed representing this area in the Senate. However, I was working for a construction trade association, and when the economy took a downturn, unfortunately, they couldn't afford to pay me, so I had to fire myself, which was a very odd conversation. And go back to the lobbying business. And I was delighted for the opportunity that Randy has to move on. And when he called and asked if I was interested in representing the city of Mesquite again, I jumped at that opportunity. And it's been kind of an interesting, fun thing for me to kind of take a trip down memory lane as I'm in contemplation of this. Some of the projects that we worked on, we just talked about the recreation center. That was one of the first projects. And again, as I list off these projects, I don't want to leave the council with the impression that these are things I did by myself. That's certainly not the case. It was a combined effort of the city council, the mayor, the staff, and a whole bunch of really good people. But this is to give you an idea of some of the assignments I was given by the mayor and council when I first represented the city the first time. And the recreation center, bringing the recreation center into Mesquite was at the top of the list of things that I think I'm most proud of. Also, the first Department of Motor Vehicle office we brought in as part of a legislative effort. The community college itself was one of the assignments I was given to bring the community college to the area, and I'm very proud of the role I helped in that. The seat on the Convention and Visitors Authority, which was extremely hard fought, probably the most difficult thing I ever did. In fact, we didn't ultimately get that accomplished until I went in the Senate. And that was one of the first bills I introduced as a member of the Senate, was to get a full-time seat on the Convention and Visitors Authority, which I think has proven important. But prior to that, we did some good work, I think, in getting the Nevada Welcome Center was one of the projects that we worked on through the LVCVA, getting the funding allocation changed to benefit Mesquite more, getting more emphasis on Mesquite, advertising from the Convention and Visitors Authority. Of course, the very first Mesquite Land Act was a project I was asked to work on, and we were obviously successful in that, and that has proven to be important. Obviously, the battles over the water resources, the basin battles that we've had, I've been very much involved in the middle of those. The Primex plastic factory was a project I was asked to assist with and help with. The Justice Center facility, of course, Judge Dodd was the most instrumental person in all of that, but that was a project I was given. So that's to name a few. I mean, the hospital was a project we just started working on before I left for the Senate. But I've been very, very proud of what I've been able to help the city of Mesquite do. I look forward to the opportunity. Big shoes to fill in Randy. Randy proved to be one of the most capable representatives. He's got a reputation statewide for his policy ability, really, and I'm not sure how I'm going to function quite as well without him this time around as I did before, because he's leaving big shoes to fill. But I have a great love for this community. I consider it an honor to be considered again for this position, and with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll stand for question.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Questions from council? Councilman Lippman.
Mr. Hardy, at the end of 2011, you were representing 19 entities, I believe. How many are you now representing in Nevada?
Many of those entities were business groups that were conglomerates of the same. I'd have to go back and do a count, but in terms of, I'm very concerned about full disclosure, so I listed each of the business entities that belong to those. But I think there's about eight clients now that some of them come under that umbrella. Not in the area of local government, though. This would be, if you'll notice, if you look at my my list, I don't really represent competing interests.
Okay. Are you still representing the builders and contractors?
I am.
Thank you.
Councilman Rapson.
Should you be awarded this contract, would you be, well, I would ask that you provide some, one of the things that we like to get from our consultants is quarterly updates, at least quarterly updates, if not sooner. Just what have you been doing? What have you been spending your time on? Essentially, for our constituents to understand that there's something being done for the money. That's it.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, to Councilman Rapson, that's part of my business practice. We do that, and any time the council would like me to appear before the council to speak about any issue, I'm willing to do that, certainly.
Councilman Hafen.
Or in this agreement, it's mostly contemplated that you're going to be with the state legislature, those kind of actions. When we had conversation, we talked about, county, other local things, and you listed some of those things you've been involved with. And I'm sure that you're willing to, we call you up and we need you to go help us with the county or another legislative body, another city, you're even without saying the contract, but you're willing to go and do those kind of things as well.
Absolutely, 100%. The contract that was before you was one that was provided by the city, but I'll be happy to state for the record publicly that I will consider myself your government affairs representative at any level of government where I can be helpful, where my relationships, my abilities will prove helpful. I hope I'm your first call.
I don't know who came next. I'll go with Councilman Gus Davison and then to Councilman Withelder. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank Randy Robbins, and I think that the last 5 years I've had an opportunity to work with you for 5 years, and you've just been tremendous for this community. I think you really had your heart in the community because you kind of grew up here. I think you went to high school here, right? You grew up here, so I know you love Mesquite, and it really showed in your efforts for us in the community. I think we're very, very fortunate that you had an early relationship with Senator Hardy, because I think it's pretty nice for us to be able to have him come back, and we end up with that quality of representation. So good to see you back. I never had an opportunity to work with you, but however, I do see some signatures here, so maybe I did on some of your projects because they were people I also worked with. So, but.
Thank you,
good,
Councilman.
Good to see you.
Councilman Withelder.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hardy, and this is probably for the benefit of the audience and the people at home that aren't quite privy as to your extensive background. And I was fortunate enough to meet with you last week, and we had a very amiable conversation. And I think I was very impressed with your ground roots level, where you come up from working with people in the blue collar people versus the senators and the congressmen and the people in the legislature. And I believe that's very important for the people to know because, well, for instance, we just eliminated an agreement with the consulting service. So you may have some shoes to fill there right off the get-go. So I think it's important that the audience and the general population be aware of your grassroots background because obviously it's going to be very important. So, and I want to thank you, and Randy, thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you, Councilman and Mayor, if I may. Yeah, I've spent a lot of years in this business now and have strong relationships and friendships across the board after years of being in these positions, and that's from the local level on up. I mean, Congressman Heck was my closest ally and friend really in the state senate while we served together. Dean Heller and I were elected to the state assembly together in 1991 and have been dear friends. And so I've kind of come up through the ranks with that group of people that are involved. And Congressman Amity and I sat together on the floor of the Senate for the 2009 session, and as well as the members of our legislature. And I was born in Salt Lake City, but I grew up in Las Vegas. Family was in the automotive business there, and I grew up working there. And got a love for politics from my father, who served for many years on the North Las Vegas City Council, and is the most patriotic man I've known. He passed away in January, but so I do have that background and that love of government and love of community, and I look forward to going to work for the people of the city of Mesquite.
Councilman Rapson.
I'd just like to echo real quickly Councilman Gustavuson's sentiments. Randy's done a great job. I've known both Randy and Warren for a long, long time, and not in government, but just simply at a sort of distant personal level, and I've got a great deal of respect for both of them, and I really think they're hard workers. They're educated, they understand the system, and I think they're a great benefit for anybody who uses them.
I'll go ahead and concur with what's been said today. I've had the opportunity to work with Randy and Warren over the many years, and I've always been very appreciative of all the things that you've done for our city. You certainly have served us well both, and look forward to seeing what this vote will be. So any other comments? Councilman Hafen, is this for a motion or do you have comment?
It is. Other than I echo the sentiments and appreciation for what they've done for this great community. Thank you.
All right, go ahead. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilman Hafen.
Move to approve the Hardy Consulting Group contract for the year 2012-2013.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. That motion carries. Thank you.